The snowcat, the machine that crossed Antarctica first. By the 1950s, Antarctica still held the last great prize of exploration. No one had ever crossed the entire continent. The expedition that finally did it, led by Vivian Fuchs in 1957 and 58, bet its lives on a machine. The Tucker Snowcat, an orange American oversnow vehicle, riding on 4 independently tilting pontoon tracks, one at each corner, like snowshoes that learned to crawl, spreading its weight so widely it could float over snow that swallowed everything else. The snowcats hauled the sledges, the fuel, and the men across 3,500 kilometers of the most hostile surface on Earth, through sastrugi fields that shook the vehicles apart bolt by bolt, in a crossing that took 99 days. The expedition produced one of the most famous photographs in polar history, a snowcat named Rock and Roll, suspended over an open crevasse, front pontoons on one side of a blue-black abyss, rear on the other, its crew calmly rigging the recovery, the exact nightmare every polar driver carries, frozen on film with a happy ending. The machines made it, the crossing entered legend, and the surviving snowcats became museum treasures. Every tracked vehicle that has crossed polar ice since, including everything else in this episode, drives in the tread marks of 4 tilting orange pontoons from Oregon. The snowcat conquered the surface. The next machine ignored the surface completely. It's the city carver from the opening, the Peter Snow Miller, the machine that carved a city. Camp Century's tunnels weren't dug, they were milled. The machine was the Peter Snow Miller, a Swiss invention originally built for clearing alpine passes, a rotating drum of blades that doesn't push snow aside but eats it, pulverizing the packed surface and firing the powder high through a chute. The Army engineers realized something wonderful about that. Aim the machine downward and forward, and it becomes an excavator for ice, carving deep, clean-walled trenches into the ice cap, meter by meter, blowing the spoil up onto the surface beside the cut. Trenches were milled, arched with steel, and the millers then buried them again under their own blown snow. An entire underground street plan, carved and re-roofed by the same machine. Inside those milled tunnels rose the impossible town, prefab buildings, the PM-2A nuclear reactor, water wells steamed into the ice providing 30,000 liters a day. And beneath the cover story lay Project Iceworm, a plan to hide hundreds of nuclear missiles in thousands of kilometers of tunnels under the ice, kept secret even from Denmark, which owned Greenland. The ice itself vetoed the plan. The sheet flows and deforms. The tunnels squeezed slowly shut like healing wounds. And by 1967, the city was abandoned to be crushed and entombed. In 2024, a NASA radar plane flying over the empty white accidentally photographed its ghost, still buried in the ice. The maddest city of the Cold War was carved by a snowblower, and the ice sheet is still digesting it. The snow miller built downward. The next machines build a lifeline, a 1,000-mile road that exists only as an idea. The traverse train, the convoy that walks to the South Pole. The South Pole station burns enormous quantities of fuel, and for decades every liter arrived the expensive way, flown in by ski-equipped Hercules aircraft, each flight itself burning fuel to carry fuel. The modern alternative is one of the great unsung logistics machines on Earth, the South Pole Traverse, tractor trains that drive it, convoys of agricultural and polar tractors, heavily modified, tracked, cab-heated fortresses, set out from the coast at McMurdo hauling strings of sleds, gigantic flexible fuel bladders lying on plastic sheets, container sleds, living modules for the crew, ahead of them, roughly 1,600 kilometers to the pole, across shear zones where hidden crevasses are found by ground-penetrating radar pushed ahead of the lead tractor, and filled by dozers before the train may pass. The convoy grinds along at walking to jogging pace, crews living aboard for weeks each way, engines never quite trusted to stop, and every arrival delivers fuel at a fraction of the airlifted cost, saving dozens of Hercules flights per season. The road itself is nothing but a flagged, groomed line across the ice, reproven every year. It is the overland train concept from earlier in this series, reborn with satellites and radar, and it works. The loneliest gas run on the planet, made on tracks, uphill, to the bottom of the world. The Traverse hauls fuel over the ice. The next machines build roads out of it, with water. The ice road flutter, the trucks that pave with water. Every winter in the far north, roads appear where no roads exist. Hundreds of kilometers of highway across frozen lakes, carrying full-weight trucks to mines that have no other land connection. Those roads are manufactured, and the machinery is gloriously counterintuitive. To build a stronger road, you flood it. Purpose-built water trucks and pumping units drill through the young lake ice, pump water up from beneath, and spray it across the surface in controlled sheets, layer after layer through the coldest nights, each flood freezing onto the last, thickening the pavement of ice like laminating glass, until a meter and more of engineered ice can carry a loaded semi. The machines around the water trucks make it an industry. Snowplows keep the surface bare, because snow insulates and weakens ice. Profilers smooth it, and radar sleds, ground-penetrating units towed ahead of graders and patrol trucks, measure the ice thickness continuously, mapping the road's strength meter by meter, the way the road profiler from the Road Machine's episode maps asphalt. Speed limits exist for a reason no highway engineer elsewhere ever considers. A truck pushes a pressure wave through the water beneath the ice, and driving too fast can make your own wave break the road ahead of you. For a few weeks a year, it's the strangest pavement on Earth, Then spring deletes the entire highway. The flooders build roads across frozen water. The next machine drives where the passengers are the cargo, and the locals are bears. The tundra buggy, the bus built for polar bears. In Churchill, Manitoba, the self-declared polar bear capital of the world, the bears gather every autumn on the tundra by Hudson Bay, waiting for the sea to freeze. Humans wanted to watch, and walking among the planet's largest land predator is a famously abbreviated experience. The answer, invented locally in the late 1970s, is the tundra buggy, a bus rebuilt into a rolling fortress. A high passenger cabin mounted on a chassis riding tires taller than a standing man, placing the windows and everything soft inside them, safely above the reach of a curious bear standing on its hind legs. Fleets of these giants now roll gently across the frozen tundra tracks each season, heated cabins full of tourists, open rear viewing decks perched at exactly bear-proof height. The bears, magnificently unbothered, treat the buggies as scenery. They nap against the tires, rise up against the hulls to sniff the humans, photographing them from a meter above, and occasionally chew speculatively on a mud flap. The machines travel only on established trails to protect the tundra, and mobile lodges, entire trains of linked buggy cars with bunks and kitchens, let visitors live out on the ice edge for days among the gathering bears. It is the gentlest extreme vehicle in this series, a machine whose whole design brief was, let the apex predator come as close as it likes. The buggy keeps humans above the ice. The next machine reaches straight through it, 2.5 kilometers deep, using nothing but hot water. The hot water drill, the machine that melted a telescope into the ice. Under the South Pole sits one of the strangest scientific instruments ever built. Ice Cube, a telescope made of ice, a cubic kilometer of the Antarctic sheet, seeded with thousands of light sensors, watching for the ghostly flashes of neutrinos from deep space. The instrument needed 86 holes, each 2.5 kilometers deep, drilled through the ice cap, and no mechanical drill on Earth could do it on schedule. The solution was the enhanced hot water drill, a portable power plant of heaters and pumps, generating megawatts of hot water, fed down a hose to a nozzle that simply melts its way downward, a jet of hot water descending through the ice sheet like a wire through wax, opening a water-filled shaft 60 centimeters wide and 2.5 kilometers deep in about 2 days. Then came the deadline no other machine in this series faces. The hole immediately begins to refreeze. Crews had roughly a day to lower each string of 60 basketball-sized sensor modules down the water column to depth before the shaft closed forever, threading a 2-kilometer necklace into a self-healing wound. Every string made it. The ice froze the sensors permanently into place, exactly as designed, and the telescope has been watching the universe from inside a glacier ever since. The drill's holes no longer exist. The instrument they enabled will outlast everyone who made it. The hot water drill worked straight down. The next machine broke the rules sideways, literally. The Baltica, the icebreaker that attacks sideways. Icebreakers have one classic limitation. They break a channel as wide as themselves, and most ships that need escorting are wider than the icebreaker leading them. Finland, the world's icebreaker superpower, answered with a ship that looks like a drawing error. The Baltica, the world's first oblique icebreaker. Her hull is asymmetric, lopsided by design, and her propulsion is a set of azimuthing thrusters that can push her in any direction, including sideways. In open water, she sails like a normal, slightly odd ship. In ice, she performs her trick. She rotates to an angle and advances obliquely, crab walking through the pack, presenting her long, sloped flank to the ice, breaking a channel far wider than her own beam, wide enough for big tankers with one modest ship. Watching her work rewires the brain. A vessel plowing steadily forward while pointing 30 degrees off her course, ice failing along her whole tilted length. The concept had been sketched for decades. The Baltica, delivered in 2014 for Russian service in the Gulf of Finland and Arctic waters, proved it in steel, and doubles as an emergency oil spill responder, her sideways stance letting her sweep a wide swath of contaminated water. In a series full of machines that go through obstacles, she is the only one that discovered the fastest way through was diagonal. The Baltica breaks the ice around ships. The final machine of this entire series stands on the ice, and when the ice turns against it, it stands up and leaves. Halley 6, the building that ran away. Britain's Halley Research Station sits on the Brunt Ice Shelf in Antarctica, a floating slab of ice that flows toward the sea and periodically calves city-sized icebergs. 5 previous Halley stations were slowly crushed, buried by snow, or carried toward the ocean on the moving shelf, so the 6th was built as something new in the history of architecture, a building that is also a vehicle. Halley 6 is a train of 8 linked modules, blue and red pods with panoramic windows containing labs, bedrooms, a gym, a climbing wall. And every module stands on hydraulic legs, ending in giant skis. The legs climb. Each year they jack the station up out of the accumulating snow that buried its ancestors. And the skis mean the entire station can be uncoupled, hooked to tractors, and towed, a building that migrates. In 2017, it proved the point spectacularly. A dormant chasm in the ice shelf reawakened and began creeping toward the station, threatening to set it adrift on a future iceberg. So Halley 6 did what no station before it could. It packed up and ran away, module by module. Tractors dragged the entire base 23 kilometers upstream across the shelf to safe ice. where it was recoupled and switched back on. The building simply moved out of the iceberg's way. It is the perfect machine to end this series. After tens of episodes of vehicles pretending to be buildings and buildings full of machines, the last word goes to a building that, when the planet came for it, revealed itself to have been a vehicle all along. So now you choose, one final time. 8 machines. The orange pontoons that crossed Antarctica first, the snow miller that carved a nuclear city, the tractor train to the South Pole, the trucks that pave with water, the bus built for bears, the drill that melted a telescope into a glacier, the icebreaker that attacked sideways, and the building that ran away from an iceberg. You get the driver's seat of exactly one. Which do you take, and why? Most people pick the Tundra buggy, but I'd argue Halley 6 is the only right answer, because it's the only machine in this entire series that is also a home. One machine, one sentence of defense, in the comments. And with that, the series you voted for is complete. Mining, railways, roads, demolition, rescue, forests, tunnels, concrete, oil fields, and the ice. 10 families of machines, 80 answers to impossible jobs. If this series proved one thing, it's the law we started with. Show me an impossible job, and somewhere, somebody has already built the machine. The comment sections of these 10 videos are now the nomination box for what gets explained next. Subscribe. New video every week.